Hello. One of the things I haven't really talked about much in my YouTube channel is about movies, which is odd because I am a big lover of movies. Good movies, bad movies. I enjoy them all for vastly different reasons. Uh, and today, I kind of stumbled upon something I found very interesting and I had never heard before. And that was that since even before he was famous, Sylvester Stallone has always wanted to make a biopic about Edgar Allan Poe. And this has been a passion project for him. He's been working on scripts for it since before he even wrote Rocky, if you can believe that. And this is something that, people have made a lot of jokes about, a lot of reporters writing articles have made jabs about this. And I find this all very interesting because I had never heard of it before. I had no idea that he wanted to do that. He has said that he doesn't think that he would be a good fit for the role. He wants to find somebody else to fill that part. However, he has been working on this script, you know, since then. He has rewritten it many times over the last 50-ish years now. And this is just something he absolutely loves and would love to do. And the one of the people who was sort of mocking this in their articles had said that would be like um, seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger do Shakespeare. And that made me think of a movie that I love, which it's not Shakespeare, but it is Arnold Schwarzenegger in a very, very serious role. Um, and that is the 2015 movie Maggie. Now, probably most of you have never seen Maggie. It is not an extremely well known film. It wasn't. Didn't get it wasn't something that was a big blockbuster or anything like that. There's a reason for that, and that is Maggie is a very strange film. It's the kind of movie that shouldn't exist, but I'm glad it does. The description I'm going to give of Maggie is not going to do it any favors. It is going to make it sound like something very different than what it is. And I'll get into that after. But the short version of what Maggie is about is that Maggie is a um, zombie virus outbreak movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger that is not an action film. It is a serious drama, slow burn horror um, of a type you don't often see. I found this very fascinating. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, as I've said, as um, Maggie's father. Maggie is played by Abigail Breslin. And the idea is that uh, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is a farmer, if I remember correctly, and a very protective father. And his daughter, um, while she was away from home, became exposed to the disease that is causing the zombie outbreak in their world. Now, unlike most zombie movies, at this point in time, the outbreak of this disease has mostly been contained. The disease has been around long enough that the CDC has found ways of dealing with it. There are government centers where if you bring people who are exposed, they will care for them until they die, and then they will dispatch with them, shall we say. And So there are no hordes of zombies, um, shambling about in the streets, or there's no running from them or having them pop out of closets or any of the other kinds of things you kind of expect from zombie movies. Um, it is dealing with this, knowing the inevitable, let's say. From the beginning, there's no cure for this disease, so they know Maggie is eventually going to die, and when she dies, she's going to become one of the undead. And this is a slow process that takes days. And so she goes home to her parents, and her father has to deal with the inevitability of her death and the feeling of what he would have, and the weight of what he would have to do when that comes. Because Maggie doesn't want to go to one of those government centers I've mentioned before. This movie was directed by Henry Hobson, and this was his first film. And I gotta say, for a first film, this is amazing. First feature film, I should say. I don't know if there are any student films out there or anything like that. But it is absolutely a amazing film. It is a gut-wrenching film. Everyone I know who's seen it has loved it, but again, not many people I know have seen it. It's a strange movie, and it's a hard one to recommend to people. It's kind of a hard sell. Because when you hear zombies, you hear Arnold Schwarzenegger, you think action, and when you're like, no, it's not any of that. It's, it's a tough sell. Kind of makes me wonder how exactly this movie came to be. Now, I am a big fan of horror, and I have to say, though, I am much more a fan of old horror than I am of modern horror. There are modern horror movies I love and modern horror books that I love, but when it comes to like my go-to, what I want to read at any given time, what I most often read are, horror novels from, pre 1920, or I should say pre 1930. There are some in the 20s I've very much enjoyed too. And one of my favorite horror writers of all time is Ambrose Bierce. And Ambrose Bierce, well, he did write some things that you would definitely think of when you think of horror. He wrote some things that are truly horrific, but are not quite what you think of when you hear of horror. He once wrote a story that took place during the Civil War, in which a young soldier was faced with the impossible decision of whether he should shoot this Confederate soldier who doesn't know he's there before he can give word back where get back to the other rebels word of where the Union troops are encamped. And that may, well, I'm going to have to give away the twist ending, because then you understand the gravitas of this decision. The whole, what he knows the entire time, but the audience, the readers do not, is that man who who he would have to kill in order to save his friends is his own father. It's such a horrible thing to think about. That's the opposite of the horror we generally see today. It's it's entirely different. It's emotional, it's dramatic. It's not, you know, a guy in a mask chasing you through the woods. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy the guy in the mask chasing you through the woods movies. I do. Sometimes. But there's just something different about that kind of horror. And Maggie has that kind of feeling to me, that sort of personal, dramatic horror. You're horrified by the emotions of the situation. You know, Maggie's father, Mr. Vogel, his uh, the horror of knowing that his daughter's going to die and there's nothing he can do about it. The fact that he has tried to protect her entire life and he has failed at that, and there is nothing he can do to ever protect her again. And for Maggie to know that she's dying, she's not going to get to grow old, she's not going to get married and have children. There's no future for her. Um, Her life can be counted in a matter of days. And while she doesn't know exactly how many, she knows she has, I believe, less than a week to live. And dealing with that thought. And on top of that, the way she knows what is happening to her is affecting her parents. And just, the emotions, there's something visceral and palpable and powerful about the emotional dramatic horror of this movie. um, it is absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And you just never see anything like that. you know the, I mean, from time to time, maybe, but not very often. This is not where mainstream horror is. And there are some movies I've watched where there was a potential for the story to have been interpreted that way, and it makes me wonder if earlier drafts of the scripts were like that, but they instead chose to focus on more traditional horror aspects. Maggie doesn't follow the tropes. There are no jump scares. Um, no, what was that noise? It is a very slow, emotional, quiet film. Just sad and somber, and it is it hits you like a punch to the gut. Like, it is. And it's funny because it has very mixed reviews. I've seen online. It only has like a 60% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, and I think part of that is because it's not what people expect it to be. And that is very unfortunate. Again, it's not what I was expecting it to be. I heard that there was a zombie movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, and given Arnold Schwarzenegger's age and the fact that the pictures I saw from this movie didn't seem to hide his age, um, it made me kind of think that this was going to be a sort of unintentionally funny, dumb action flick. And it was not that in the slightest. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. um, Yeah, this is one that I wouldn't mind owning. But yeah, it's an excellent film, and I really suggest that anybody who likes horror watch it, but know what you're getting into beforehand. Because again, it's not like most modern horror. Um, I've heard some people say that, you can tell the director was kind of new at this. There are some missed beats. Um, I think they're being a little overly critical, I think, but yeah, there are some things that might have been done a little better here and there, but the whole movie is just powerful, and I greatly enjoyed it. And I hope you will too. So, for now, I hope you found that interesting. If you enjoyed this video, you know how YouTube works. The button's down there. um, and so I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Um, have a nice day, and until I see you again, stay spooky.